We are looking to enhance the Sports Heroes project from the YByte Python curriculum available at www.ybyte.in. Sports Heroes is about analyzing sports data. In this case, we are taking Wimbledon and French Open as our two examples. So we saw how we could analyze the data, to get us, for example, a list of all the winners. And then we tabulated it in the order of, let's say, descending order of how many times the players have won it. For example, Roger Federer has won this 8 times, Pete Sampras won this 7 times, and so on. The interesting bit about this kind of data is that there's a lot of information actually in there, but that information becomes more obvious, more, let's say, clear when we present the data in a slightly different manner. For example, let's say we were to present this from a country centric perspective. So we know that the tournament has been played, let's say, 57 times. Um, Out of these 57 times, 15 times have been won by people who are from the United States. And it turns out that these are the 6 people who have won it 15 times. From Switzerland, well, there is just one person who has won it 8 times, and that's Roger Federer. Like I said, all the information was available, but seeing it this way provides us new perspective. This is what we are going to look at in this video. We'll see how we can take the same existing data and present it in a form that becomes sort of country centric. Of course, we can apply the same idea to French Open as well. It turns out that Spain has won this tournament. I mean, it turns out that people from Spain have won this 21 times, and that's not a surprise because one individual, Rafael Nadal, has in fact won it 14 times, as we just saw. So 21 is Spain and really leads it by a big way, right? And so on. So, like I said, interesting insights start to come out, which were there but not so obvious. Now, in order to, let's say, make this a little bit more country centric, in fact, we already have almost all the infrastructure ready. We just have to extend this analysis a little bit for, let's say, country point of view. So I'm just going to follow, my code here. I'm just going to say, okay, look, like I created a winners list. I'm going to create a countries, say, list over here, uh, list. And this, of course, will be an empty list. Now, as I, let's say, look through the tournament data, I will keep on appending previously we are looking at we are appending the, let's say, the winners into the winners list. I'm going to, in the similar manner, I'm going to say, well, countries list dot append, and basically winner and country. So, we are interested in which country this player came from. It's exactly like the idea is very, very similar. Of course, they could be duplicates. Clearly, there are duplicates. So what I'm going to do is to say that, okay, look, there's a country set, and that will be basically operated by doing a set operation on the countries list. Remember, countries list will have duplicates, but countries set by definition, because a set cannot have duplicates, will have absolutely no duplicates. That's the fundamental premise of a set. Now, having created this, in fact, I will just take my, the way we were creating, for example, a winners info list. I'm going to take this entire code and just do some modifications to it because it's already in a very good shape, right? So I'm just going to take, for example, this entire piece of code and I'm going to put it over here. So let's just make it, uh, say country centric analysis. So I'm going to just call it. So I'm going to call here as countries info list. And now we will just modify this loop here just to be sort of, consistent with the fact that we are now doing country centric analysis. So basically all the variables have to be changed. This has to be countries set. So for not player, for let's say country in country set. And thereafter, basically I will just go and pick up that particular item from those lists where the chosen country is a country. So just has to be done carefully, and that's it. Try is equal to and thereafter, of course, I'll be updating. So this is not a player info; it's in fact country info, and likewise, these are all. So let me first make these changes. And I think we don't need this. So basically, I'm looking at the basically three things: the country itself. So let me just get this correct. Dy is equal to COUNTRY times 1, which is how many times somebody has won this, is in fact exactly the same as what we have here. And finally, we will have to update the players that have won it. So I'm just going to say it's exactly like the years one was being done. So I'm just going to say country info, say players, and I'm going to start with an empty list over here. And here essentially I'll just go and say country info, and this should be players. And basically I'll be appending to this the champion. So it's literally the same logic. It's just being, let's say, let's say adapted to the country centric analysis. Right now over here I'm going to create a countries info list, just like earlier. So COUNTRIS info list, and obviously in this I'll append say country info. Now there's one more thing we need to make, we need to sort of change in this, but we will see that in just a moment. What I'll do is to print this, I'll sort this whole thing exactly like earlier, and I'll then print this onto the analysis file. So I'll just take this here. Um, you know, I'll take this, let's say, so this is winners info list. We'll make it countries, COUNTRIES info list. We'll sort this in exactly the same key. So countries info sorted. Now notice the key we will use is times 1, which is a default key because that's also logical. And then I can let's say publish say countries info list into countries info sorted actually into my analysis file, right? Now let's first see this working, then we'll understand why we need to update this code a little bit. Right now notice all we have done is to change the player to country. So I see so when I run this piece of code, I do see the country based analysis here. I'm placing this in the ascending order of times 1. And you see something interesting that, look, for example, here, let's say Switzerland, 8 times and all been won by Roger Federer. So, Roger Federer is being repeated, and that's sort of surprise because all we are doing is to append, for example, the champion again and again to these players. Now, remember, we did the same thing for years 1, but that did not matter. That looked okay because the years 1 by definition have to be unique, right? So if you want in, let's say, 2005 and 2006 and so on and so forth. However, here we have an issue because the players could be actually repeated. To fix this, in fact, we can again use the idea of set. Set will remove the duplicate. So I'll just go and have one more line, let's say written over here. So what I'll do is that I'll just go and say, well, let me update this list so that it becomes, so that it does not have any duplicates. And I'll do that by using a set function. Basically, I'll convert this whole thing to a set and then again back into a list. And that way, all the duplicates will be removed. When so let me call this function in the descending order of, let's say, times 1, because that is more, let's say, interesting. So I'm just going to say, well, D here. And let's put the French Open data also in the same way, right? So times 1. So now when I look at the analysis.dat, so I do get this country-centric view. So in Wimbledon, 15 times people from the USA have won it, and it turns out that there are 6 people who have done it. So obviously they won multiple times. In case of Switzerland, like we saw, 8 times, and now there's only one Roger Federer. So so interesting insight coming out of this, and clearly this is fun. Likewise, if I go down, I have, we have the country specific analysis for French Open as well. So 21 times from Spain, as we know, that's because one particular player, Rafael Nadal, in fact, won it 14 times. So, that just dominates the whole scenario, right? But you get the idea, we have more analysis now, more insights coming out, and also good programming practice. I hope you found this interesting. In general, this way of learning is fun because we are always applying concepts to something that we enjoy, and that way we learn much better. Take a look at our website, www.ybyte.in. We learn Python programming through such fun activities. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.